I also read my namesake, Catherine Maher, was head of NPR, and she said, "We're completely unbiased. Give me a break, lady." I mean, they're crazy far left.
Bill Maher didn't hold back when he turned his spotlight on NPR, and the resulting clash was equal parts hilarious and spicy. NPR, long regarded as a neutral source of news, is supposed to deliver stories without favoritism or slant. Yet the reality on display seemed far from impartial.
If you look on the right side, Jamie, where it says the truth is a distraction from getting things done, that is such a Orwellian thing to say. Click on that just so you can hear her say this, because it's so bananas that someone would say this out loud and not think it's...
One of the most significant differences, critical for moving from polarization to productivity, is that the Wikipedians who write these articles aren't actually focused on finding the truth.
Rather than maintaining a careful balance, NPR appeared to lean toward Maher's perspective, creating an unexpected twist in the exchange. Even with the outlet seemingly on his side, Maher refused to go easy. True to form, he went after NPR with sharp precision, showing no mercy.
Oh no.
They're working for something that's a little bit more attainable, which is the best of what we can know right now. And after 7 years there, I actually believe that they're onto something. That for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth isn't necessarily the best place to start. In fact, I think our reverence for the truth might have become.
The result was a takedown that burned bright and left an impression. Maher criticized the network for failing at the very responsibility they claim to champion, unbiased reporting. It was a fiery performance that reminded everyone why his commentary never fails to provoke both laughter and thought.
The heads of NPR and PBS testified before Congress this week amid accusations of liberal bias. Should the government continue to send taxpayer dollars to public broadcasters? Well, a little background here. I mean, they've been after them the Republicans have wanted to get rid of PBS for as long as I can remember. This crowd will probably do it. I mean, I also read my namesake, Catherine Maher, was head of NPR, and she said, "We're completely unbiased. Give me a break, lady." I mean, they're crazy far left.
Bill Maher didn't mince words. Right off the bat, he called out NPR and PBS as being firmly on the far left. Sure, their executives will insist otherwise, but the evidence is hard to ignore. Take April 2024, for example, when NPR senior editor Yuri Berliner went public, admitting the network had fully embraced a progressive agenda. This isn't some conservative talking point. It's an insider spilling the truth. And it gets worse. NPR CEO Catherine Maher later confessed that they failed to report on the Hunter Biden laptop story when it really mattered. Selective reporting? You be the judge. By 2025, Congress was stepping in, questioning both NPR and PBS about their relentless focus on race, gender, and identity politics. Neutral and balanced? Not so much. These outlets have clearly picked a side, and Maher didn't hold back in calling them out. His critique? Absolutely scorching.
I think we're past the age, really, where the government, first of all, why do we need to subsidize? Why can't we have outlets like this? And we're so polarized. These outlets became popular at a time when Republicans and Democrats didn't hate each other and weren't at each other's throats and didn't think each other was an existential threat. In that world, you can't have places like this, I think, anymore. They have to be private.
I have to admit, I'm kind of with Maher on this one. Think about it. PBS and NPR get a big chunk of their funding from the government, which immediately opens the door to political influence. Any administration, left or right, could quietly nudge them, subtly shaping the narrative to serve its own agenda. That's a risky setup, because what's meant to be unbiased reporting can easily slip into state-approved messaging. And let's face it, once an outlet leans on government support, it's only a matter of time before that pressure edges into full-blown propaganda. Anyway, let's roll the clip.
I love NPR. I listen to NPR almost every day, have since 1975, when my parents used to play it in our Chevrolet Caprice when I was like 9 years old. I love it for its point of view, but since 2020, it has no longer been general. I remember in 2021, my then 9-year-old asked me, she said, "Daddy, why is it that NPR is always playing the same thing?" And I said, "What do you mean the same thing?" And I swear she said, now she doesn't have a vocabulary, but she said, "It's always about how somebody can't do something." And that what she was getting at was that. I wouldn't have said that about the NPR that I knew back in the day, and I wouldn't have said it 10 years ago, but that is what it is now.
I'm with Maher on this one. In the run-up to last year's election, NPR trained a laser-like focus on the Trump campaign. Coverage was relentless, every slip of the tongue, every gesture scrutinized. Even NPR's own public editor admitted they received a flood of complaints about how often Trump dominated the airwaves with his statements repeatedly replayed, corrected, and dissected more than many felt was fair. But here's the kicker. This constant barrage didn't always read like journalism seeking the truth. Instead, it often came across as highlighting missteps, amplifying confusion, and ratcheting up pressure on undecided voters. If the aim was to sway public opinion against Trump, it certainly had that effect.
The fact that the government was funding NPR is crazy. Yeah. Like this, you can't have a completely biased, one-sided media organization that's funded by the government and taxpayers. That's crazy. And they went over all the amount of people that were on NPR that were Democrats, and it's 100%.
Yeah.
It's like out of 87 people, it's 100%.
Look at the New York Times.
Yeah.
I mean, so that none of that should be a surprise to anybody who's
But the New York Times is
paying
at least
half of
a
mine.
privately funded company.
Right.
I mean,
right.
It's like NPR relied on tax money, and there's this giant outrage that the government's going to defund it.
That's absolutely wild. The Democrats basically managed to tilt the playing field in their favor. 80% of NPR's newsroom being Democrats is shocking. Think about it. This isn't some private outlet wearing a political label. This is a news organization funded partly by taxpayers, people like you and me. With that kind of public support, the minimum expectation should have been balance. A simple 50-50 split, half Democrats, half Republicans, would at least ensure a variety of perspectives. Instead, what we see is a newsroom echo chamber, dominated by one side while the other is largely excluded. That doesn't just skew the reporting, it chips away at public trust in journalism. Maher pointing it out? It only highlights just how deep this imbalance really runs.
At the end of the day, the reality is the internet exists, and you don't need to publicly fund something that's clearly biased when the internet exists.
Right.
You can get whatever you want. If you want to just absorb and consume only left-wing media, there's so much available. Right. You can go find it. But our tax dollars should not be going to that.
No.
Today, the internet is everywhere. On your phone, your tablet, even the cheapest laptop. You don't have to rely on government-funded outlets or legacy media giants when authentic, unfiltered news is just a few clicks away. The beauty of the web is that it breaks the old monopoly. You're no longer limited to the narrative a handful of elite journalists decide to push. Instead, you can explore dozens of independent, credible sources, compare their coverage, and form your own conclusions. Sure, there's noise and misinformation to sift through, but that's where discernment comes in. With a little effort, you can find real reporting, genuine investigations, and perspectives that mainstream outlets often ignore. In a media landscape that can feel manipulated, the internet remains one of the few places where true balance and choice still exist.
That's fantastic.
As far as the accusations that we're biased, I would stand up and say, please show me a story that concerns you, because we want to know and we want to bring that conversation back to our newsroom.
And then all this fat phobia and its racist past and present. Some white people may choose thumbs up because it feels neutral, but some academics argue that opting out, what does that mean? Thumbs up signals lax awareness about white privilege, akin to society associating whiteness with being raceless. What?
God.
What does that mean?
Or how about how racism became a marketing tool for country music?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
God.
Interestingly, NPR has always tried to claim neutrality, insisting again and again that they aren't biased. But a closer look tells a very different story. A quick scroll through their website reveals a steady stream of articles and reports that lean heavily toward Democratic narratives, while stories that might favor Republicans are often buried, downplayed, or framed skeptically. The pattern is too consistent to be accidental. So when Trump argues that NPR and PBS should be defunded, he isn't making an empty claim. Why should taxpayers fund a network that doesn't fairly represent the diversity of political thought in the country? If public money is on the line, the public deserves balance, not bias. Right now, NPR has given little reason to earn that trust or that funding.
If you look on the right side, Jamie, where it says the truth is a distraction from getting things done, that is such a fucking Orwellian thing to say. Click on that just so you can hear her say this, because it's so bananas that someone would say this out loud and not think it's...
One of the most significant differences, critical for moving from polarization to productivity, is that the Wikipedians who write these articles aren't actually focused on finding the truth.
Oh, no.
They're working for something that's a little bit more attainable, which is the best of what we can know right now.
At its core, NPR has never truly been about uncovering the unvarnished truth. The network has often focused on carefully shaping consensus rather than presenting raw facts for listeners to interpret. Stories are frequently framed to nudge audiences toward a preferred conclusion. And the biggest beneficiaries of that? The Democrats, who have turned NPR into a megaphone for progressive talking points.
And after 7 years there, I actually believe that they're onto something.
Oh.
That for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth isn't necessarily the best place to start. In fact, I think our reverence for the truth might have become
What?
a bit of a distraction that is preventing us from finding consensus and getting important things done.
What?
Oh, my
Wow.
God. That's fantastic.
From cultural issues to policy debates, NPR consistently amplifies narratives that fit neatly with the left's playbook. Alternative viewpoints are either dismissed or conveniently ignored, making it feel less like journalism and more like subtle indoctrination, cloaked in the credibility of a publicly funded news outlet. Critics argue the network has shifted from being a watchdog for the people to a tool for the woke. And Bill Maher. He saw it all too clearly.
It's time for the media to admit that they blew the whole thing way out of proportion, because as always with media these days, they don't cover what's most important, just what's most fun to watch. There are 15.2 million college students in the U.S., and 2,300 have been arrested. That's 1/67th of 1%, and half of the ones in New York weren't even students. But we were given the false impression that these protesters are the voice of their generation, having found a cause for which they were willing to go to the tents and to the barricades. Oh, please, these kids are more violent when their team wins a championship.
Maher nailed it. Today's media isn't focused on doing what's right or delivering hard facts. It's obsessed with what's flashy, fun, and guaranteed to grab clicks. Every minor slip-up becomes breaking news. Every political debate a circus, all in the name of drama. And let's be honest, it's really about money and fame, with outrage selling, scandal trending, and exaggeration keeping ratings high. Fact-checking is almost an afterthought, buried beneath the rush to be first on your feed. The result is a news cycle fueled by hype, where informing the public takes a backseat to entertainment. Maher's point is clear. When media behaves like a reality show instead of a truth-teller, society pays the price. Without accountability and accuracy, we're left with noise, not news. The media today thrives on rage and spectacle, and nothing fuels that machine better than conflict. They zero in on unrest, especially when it can be spun as defiance against the government. A protest of a few hundred becomes massive unrest. A scuffle in the streets turns into nationwide violence. By exaggerating scale and intensity, they create the illusion of chaos, implying the government is incompetent or losing control. It's not always about reporting reality. It's about crafting a narrative that grabs attention and keeps viewers glued to the screen. Anger and fear sell far better than calm and stability. Cameras zoom in on shouting, clashes, and the most dramatic scenes possible, turning ordinary dissent into a national crisis, all for ratings. Maher's fiery takedown of NPR highlights a hard truth. The media isn't about balance or facts anymore. It's about agenda, spectacle, and control. Trust is eroding fast, and if nothing changes, propaganda could fully replace journalism in America. This wraps up today's video. If you liked it, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.